Link engaged.
Visit us at TeamSpeak.com.
So, ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, meine Damen und Herren, señores y señoras, welcome back. It is game number 2 of the finals. It is RaNgeD against Young. We are on Shakura's plateau, and RaNgeD is spawning here as the purple Protoss player in the bottom left. In the top right, we have ZeNEXYong, who is up 1-0. He won the first game. It was very smartly played by both players. We can see that Young is already double upping his probes at the mineral patches. So he wants to get the maximum possible mineral income as fast as possible. RaNgeD now. In the last game, I really was only realizing it a little bit too late, but better late than never, as I always like to say. When he was blinking in the main base of Young, taking out this robo facility and then sniping this other second observer Young had left. So he was able to do so much damage with his DTs. He was able to rampage through the main base, but then he did not do one important thing, and this is use his Dark Templar at the natural and at the main base at the same time. He had 2 DTs. He was able to allow Young to get up the cannon at the natural, and with the cannon at the natural he was able to get up the robo facility once again. And as soon as RaNgeD realized, okay, even though my DT, my single DT in my main base is able to kill everything, it is not enough because I'm actually not able to attack him, and he's got such an economy advantage, and that's why he had to GG, but still played out very smartly by both players. And RaNgeD, with a small mistake not to split up his DTs, basically lost the first game. Young played it out very smartly, so big props to him. In game number 2, we have to see how this is going to turn out. Protoss versus Protoss on Shakura's plateau can be interesting from time to time. Because sometimes I saw players, even in big tournaments, in big weekly tournaments, better to say, go for a Forge opener in Protoss versus Protoss, because yes, you can protect your Forge right now pretty well. Both guys are not doing this, by the way, because once you just cannon up your natural expansion, your entrance by ground to your base, oh, you're suddenly not super vulnerable to some Warp Prism play. So that's why this is kind of a funky strategy, but as soon as your opponent knows what to do, you're basically dead. Now, Young, with his probe in the mineral line of RaNgeD, was not harassing the probe, but he was harassing the mineral fields, not allowing one of those 8 mineral patches to be mined from by RaNgeD, being a little bit annoying, and basically doing a little bit of damage to the economy of your opponent by just not allowing him to mine from one mineral patch. Always a good thing to have. Now, Young is pulling back with his probe, doing a good job in that regard. Young, with his Zealot, was able to chase away the probe of RaNgeD out of his own main base as well. Now, the Stalker of Young in his base is now checking if there are any proxy pylons, of course, in Protoss versus Protoss, which is one of the more cheesiest mirror matchup, especially early on in the game. You need to make sure that there are no proxy gates, that there are no cannons, no proxy pylons, because once those proxy pylons live long enough, you most of the time are dead. It's very easy to avoid those traps, basically. And Young did just scout very well in that regard. Now, RaNgeD, once again, he really apparently likes this build in Protoss versus Protoss, going for a 1 gateway, then adding this robo facility, and now going for gateway number 2 and number 3 is really the build of his choice. Of course, there are players, for example, like Naniwa, who is preferring this robo build over others in recent tournaments as well. So it's not like a bad build, it's not like an unusual build, it's just a common build. Some people prefer different styles in different matchups, and apparently RaNgeD does like his robo as early as possible. Now, Young is going for the robo as well. He's got 3 gateways finished right now. There we can see the robo, and the Nexus is being chrono boosted once again. So if you see a chrono boost on a Nexus past the 5-6 minute mark in Protoss versus Protoss, this means it is not going to be an all-in, because when some player is going for the 4-gate all-in Protoss versus Protoss, he's not going to chrono boost his Nexus but rather his warp gates to get those other units out as fast as possible. Small engagement here at the natural of a RaNgeD. RaNgeD was able to get some shots off, and apparently he's also able to take out this single Stalker, so very, very well played by RaNgeD, realizing, okay, they might be able to catch one of those two units here. The one last Stalker of ZeNEXYong is able to survive, get back home, but like in the last game, losing a unit early on is not what you want to have. Still, ZeNEXYong was able to recuperate quite well from this loss in the last game by taking game number 1. So, here's the pylon coming up for ZeNEXYong. He is also adding a Twilight Council. Where's the Twilight Council? Here in the top right of his mineral line. So both players, of course, going for Blinker once again. But take a look at the natural expansion of RaNgeD. So he is expanding, and expanding is one of the more easier tasks to accomplish in Protoss vs. Protoss, only because of Shakura's plateau. It is very, very safe to defend this natural expansion. You can place a lot of force field, you can get a good arc on units trying to move up the ramp, but still expanding in Protoss vs. Protoss means you're investing a lot of minerals, not into units but into buildings. And beside from the cannons, last time I checked, buildings are not that good as dealing damage as some other units. For example, like the Stalker, which I heard is used quite often in Protoss vs. Protoss. Now we can see that ZeNEXYong is having his Stalkers. He's got the blink finished in the next 5 seconds. Meanwhile, the blink for RaNgeD is already finished. Both guys do have the Stalkers. Both guys do have the Observers. So they know what's up. And RaNgeD is attacking right now, or he at least is pretending to attack, just because of the fact that he wants to buy himself some time. When you get up an expansion, you want to distract your opponent. You do not want to get attacked, because you most of the time do have less stuff than your opponent. Now, ZeNEXYong is moving down his ramp. He is at his natural expansion, and is he going to build his Nexus here or not remains to be the question, because RaNgeD now got his Nexus finished. He's mining here with 10 probes, so he's having this additional mineral income. The harvest account 32 for RaNgeD, 30 for ZeNEXYong. Looks slightly in favor for RaNgeD, but because of the Nexus he's able to saturate his bases a little bit more efficiently. Now, scouting observer by RaNgeD got taken out by ZeNEXYong, and looks like ZeNEXYong is about to move out. RaNgeD needs to warp in some more units. There are 2 more Stalkers being warped in right now, and now it's going to be some Protoss Stalker versus Stalker, Blink Stalker versus Blink Stalker action. Both guys do have a sentry for this crucial Guardian Shield, and here are the Stalkers engaging, but no, not just yet. ZeNEXYong is pulling back at the same time. RaNgeD is sending in a single Zealot here to the natural expansion of ZeNEXYong. RaNgeD got another Observer out, of course. Both guys need to watch out that their Observers will not be taken out. There's the Guardian Shield coming up by ZeNEXYong. ZeNEXYong warping in, blinking in with his forces. RaNgeD blinking on the high ground, trying to do some more damage. The Observer for ZeNEXYong is still there. Now another offensive blink by ZeNEXYong, and ZeNEXYong is doing quite a lot of damage. Still, it's a little bit unclear who is in favor here of this battle. The forces of RaNgeD were blocked for just a second, but with ZeNEXYong blinking away out of the natural expansion, RaNgeD was able to hold on this attacker for just this very moment. Both guys still have a lot of forces here, blinking back and forth. The Zealot is tanking a little bit, walking forward, walking backwards. Not much going on, but it's 13, 14, 15, 14 Stalkers here. Now I did count once again, 15 for ZeNEXYong, not so much for RaNgeD, but RaNgeD does have some Zealots, and the Zealots of course are very good at tanking damage versus a Stalker. And now it's just once again Stalker on Stalker action, blinking back and forth, but now ZeNEXYong with the offensive blink once again might be able to overpower the remaining forces of RaNgeD. RaNgeD still not using any probes. Maybe he should have done this early on in the game, and I think it's still looking a little bit better for RaNgeD here. Warping in some Zealots, he's got the pylon there right away, but ZeNEXYong does have a little bit too much stuff, and he is just in a better and better position. GG is called. RaNgeD is beaten once again, and ZeNEXYong winning game number 2 here. And he played this out pretty fast, pretty good. For 1 second I thought, okay, ZeNEXYong was beaten, he pulled back with the Stalkers, he does not have the expansion, so whoa, suddenly, is it going to be a tie? No, it is not. And Young taking game number 2 here pretty convincingly, because he decided, I'm not giving up. I got the good control. I'm about to move in once again. And he did do just that. So in that regard, Young is looking good. He is up 2-0. He is only one game away from winning the finals. Of course, you can win. There's a total prize of $200 for the Team Liquid Open. It is not a qualifier for next TSL, but there will be a tournament, and by winning Team Liquid Open, you will get some points by getting far, and then there will be a big tournament with some more money to be played. So, sort of a good idea to not only have this Team Liquid Opens as a single tournament on a Saturday, but also be able to have basically a grand finals to be played out. So game number 2 is over, and we will be back with game number 3 right after this.